All right, so a little bit about today's agenda and meeting format and such. I'm Celia Fryar, and I'm going to be talking today about TableauNext a bit. And I'm a Tableau academic ambassador. I've been working with Tableau since in and around it since 2012-ish, 13, but more author meets, firsthand, and then instructor 2015, 16. So I've seen it change a lot over the years. And been involved in their beta program for a long time as well. It's always interesting to see at what point do they introduce you to beta programs, right? Is it kind of beta? Is it kind of alpha? It's almost general availability. So it's been interesting to watch the scope on that over the years. I'm also going to be joined later in the hour by Blake, and I misspelled his name. Blake Wade is his name. And he is one of our analysts who has actually just completed a proof of concept for a client using live data production environment with TableauNext. And so I'm glad to have him here. He's offered to come jump in for the Q&A part of our meeting today. And Lauren, my co-host, we have a slide here in a minute, but she's usually the one who's speaking to us on these meetings. So I'm really grateful that she's here to she's going to be watching chat. So there's any questions and also just help with any of the Q&A as well. We are virtual. We have very much intentionally created this environment for it to be interactive. And so we're very excited for you to please participate in the chat together as we go through the time. We will be having kind of a little bit more structured Q&A at the end, because I have some things I really want to be sure and share and show. But if you have comments or questions as we go, I'll do my best to catch them. But we'll definitely have a purpose time at the end for Q&A. We'll have a link to today's recording that will be distributed for anybody who is registered for the meeting today. And it is being recorded for sure. So I just double checked. So we're good to go there. And as always, if you have ideas or recommendations or suggestions on topics that you would find very helpful to be covered, there is a space for that in the follow-up information and emails. And you can also just email Chris Monahan, who is our president and CEO, and he will most certainly, he sent Lauren and I a couple of specific examples of the things that people were asking for. I think saw that come through last night. So Lauren and I co-host this session together monthly, and we really very much try to make it topics that you are asking about, caring about, and or what we're seeing our customers be super involved with. So Lauren she is a gifted analyst and designer of all things visual, and I just have more of a logic brain, and I am always in awe of her skills. And she leads a lot of what we do at Xeo in terms of visual analytics and creative solutions for connecting the data and data prep and all of that. So she's been a marvelous partner for me on this, and also just a delight to work with. I have also in some of my spare time, I'm a part-time university and professor at USF, and that's me being out in California a couple of days ago. And then I've been in data my whole career, but analytics the last decade plus, and something I very much enjoy. Really like being involved in the data-driven decision kind of ideas. So let's continue, I guess, and jump into TableauNext. And before I actually start talking about what I have prepared for you guys, just want to see, have any of you in the chat, if any of you have tried TableauNext or been involved in the beta or any of that, I would love to see that in chat. And a no is fine too. I'm just curious who's in the room in terms of experience that we might have. Anybody? Okay, Blake, I see you. Okay, awesome. That's hilarious, sir. All right. Okay, good. All right, well, we probably at some point we should do a little bit more of a welcome to TableauNext, because there is language and labels that are different than TableauNext. I mean, Tableau Desktop and Tableau Cloud. And however, there is a familiarity to it that is very like a common thread, if you will. So it's not like starting over by any means, but there are some devices and ways of doing things. And then please do keep in mind that it is general availability in its base form, but it's, I remember when cloud came out and how that we were always like, wow, that's needs more features. Well, they're hard at work in bringing more features to it. And so, but this is the first iteration of it, of course, and it went GA with 2025.2 and that time frame. So it's been fun to see it grow even in the time period that I've been participating in the beta test, because they introduced us to the beta in May, and I would say July and August were really big steps up in terms of stability and features and things that we have come to expect from the brand of Tableau. So this month, in fact, in 5 days, we're starting a new beta internally. They are starting their new internally beta, and they've invited Tableau ambassadors and visionaries, and I'm sure others to get involved, because they're building up more of the features around the semantic model. To my mind, the semantic model is the big deal here, and the features around it. And I do have some things to share about how it is now, and then what some of the near future features that they're adding in as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, the two things I really purpose to share with you today are how we can embed a Tableau dashboard in a Salesforce environment. If you're coming at it from a Salesforce point of view, you're using that to manage your customer relationships. I feel like there is just a quick win on being able to bring in TableauNext, and it's tightly integrated into that environment. I think that that's some of the intentionality that is in the design of the whole thing. So that'd be a good thing if you're using Salesforce, it might be a good way to really get started with it. Another part of it that has had a lot of marketing around it, a lot of conversations around it, is Concierge. And that's that agentic analytics agent that's going to do the conversational piece with us at some point. And my testing has been around it a lot, because I wanted to reconcile the data, validate the answers, and then figure out where we go from how I ask good questions and how I get good answers. And I was an early adopter with ChatGPT, so I'm very much aware. And in my teaching, I'm always teaching students to, especially my college students, to get involved with AI and do well with it, because being a great prompt engineer is a big part of it, right? If you don't ask the right questions, you get, unwanted answers. So and then trying to figure out what part of this is at play here with what's happening inside of the Tableau ecosystem. So, and with that, let's go ahead and dive in. And I went ahead and recorded a no words walkthrough so I could articulate on top of it what it is that was happening here, but I didn't want to be distracted by any of the little things that might happen along the way. So it's about the first part of this is about 9 minutes long, and we're going to walk through how you create a Tableau dashboard inside of TableauNext, and then how we connect it up so that it's integrated over in Salesforce. So this is the dashboard that you'll see be built. The viz part is what you're going to see actually be built. And to be fair, they have several templated dashboard structures, so it's building dashboards there are pretty straightforward and very familiar in terms of the interface and that. And we probably will do another session some other time, or we'll be making some videos to make it clear how to assemble things, because it is similar but different. Okay. But the idea here is when you have the account tab open in Salesforce, you would have potentially other things, but you would at least have the related and the details tab in this space. And to be able to add an analytics tab where you have a dashboard that you've created that highlights things you care about, that's the goal. So but it all begins with a semantic model, right? And this is, if you've not seen it before, this is what it looks like. And this is the Sales Cloud. This is a demo data set that Salesforce has made available around the whole concept of customer management and opportunities and pipeline and all that. But you can see that we have it's an interactive environment, and you'll see that in just a moment as well. In this particular example, I had uploaded an Excel sheet that had customer reviews, that had sentiments of positive and negative and neutral, and So it was being added into this environment, and this is sort of like our data source tab on Tableau desktop, but cloud side, and then also with more, they would call this the semantic model, but we also are under the heading of a workspace. So that's kind of the hierarchy of words. Use of terms is workspace and semantic model, and then we have, of course, these other divisions as well. We have metrics and calculated fields that are separated out here nicely for us, and parameters. Logical views would be this piece right here, and it's always illuminated in orange. And then we have our data objects. So the semantic data model is made up of these data objects, and they call them data lake objects, and otherwise. And I would not have characterized the review worksheet as a data lake object, but that's the DLO label is what gets assigned to it. And regardless of what it is, it sits together nicely with all this when you get to decide the relationships, how they are built. You also can turn on an Einstein feature here that will suggest relationships, and most of the times it's right. I've not seen it be wrong yet. So that's also a possibility. So I'm going to kick off this recording, and then I'll be speaking over it so that we can be seeing. And here we go. Okay. And if anybody's having any trouble seeing it or hearing me, please let me know in chat, or let Lauren know, and she'll interrupt me, get me going. Okay. So this is me. I'm just walking through some of the add data pieces here. And I just mentioned that the customer reviews was something I had uploaded, just an Excel sheet that I'd uploaded. And you want to take those data lake objects and add them into your data model. You can see that there was other Excel sheets that were, or other data files that were available there. You can see the spread of what is in the content of it here in the panel on the left, like at the data pane. You also can see it tabularly presented across the bottom. And I'm just scrolling and showing you, we have you see the similar look and feel to Tableau Desktop, right? In addition to some of the things we have in desktop, we also can sort the columns independently, not independent of each other, but choose a column and sort the whole table right there in this view, which I just did with the sentiment. All right, and then I can close it with the panel to the right. We're back to our semantic model. And now we're going to just look at, we're going to need to build a calculated field that is going to be tying, bridging the logic between those, the sentiment and how many, the count of how many, right? Well, this drafting with Einstein is something that they are strongly recommending, and they've taken it out of the consumption credit. So that's really awesome. And that helps you with some of the syntax, because the syntax is a little different here than what we experience over in Tableau Classic and Cloud. So you can see my new field bottom left. And so now we're going to go and build our viz. All right, and I can choose to borrow from something that exists, or just start within my semantic model, my data source, which is, of course, what I'm going to do here, because I want to do something broader than some other viz that already existed in my space. Okay, looks like Tableau, right? Desktop and cloud, right? We got our data pane on the left, and we're going to be searching for fields that we're going to be pulling to make that visualization that I showed you earlier. This is going to, my horizontal axis is going to be fiscal weeks, but look how these filters, or the ways to filter dates, look similar, right? Similar, a little bit different, but some parts of this are very much the same. Okay. All right, so I've got a filter to close it out at the end of that Q1 time period. Now I'm going to be putting things on rows and columns, and also on my color. So I'm going to put those review date up first to create that horizontal axis out of the fiscal weeks. You recognize our drop down is similar, where we have control over the date part. It's interesting that they went ahead and used the word date part. Date part is one of my favorite SQL commands, but you still can switch it from dimensions and measures, and how you present it as you can visualize it as discrete or continuous, as we do often in tables. And then here's my discrete presentation of fiscal week. All right. I'm also going to grab those total number of reviews to create my pattern of sentiment. And then I'm going to divide it up by the sentiment. Also, we'll have each mark will have its own connection to the account name that the sentiment came from. So we're doing both of those here. So here comes sentiment. That splits it out into 3 different sections. Now I'm going to add that account name onto detail. It gets a lot going on, right? So I'm going to shift to the circle presentation of the mark. Then bring my sentiment onto color. And even though we are absolutely abundantly spoiled in the Tableau house with the colors, this is what's happening underneath this color tile. It has been improving every time they do a release. And we can, just like in other spaces, we can change the axis labels. A lot of what you find here in terms of control over presentation is right underneath the pill. You know, like we've had other menus to do that with Tableau, but more and more you may have noticed with cloud, especially what controls you need are underneath the pill that you're talking about. Very much so here with TableauNext. So I'm changing my neutral to kind of that in between gray tone, and then I'm going to make negative a little bit more of an alert color. When we first started the beta, we just had a few colors. So this is hugely improved. And also being able to get it where you're pulling it off the color spectrum. Okay, so we have account ID, account name on the label, so we can have that information. And now you can see as we hover, no control, I mean, limited control of the tooltip so far, but it's there, it's meaty, it provides information. So did you see that they turn on the button at the top and it opens up the Salesforce action panel to the right? We had a Salesforce action, and we also had a navigation action as the 2 choices there. I'm just scrolling through there to show that there's a lot of different types of Salesforce actions you can choose. And for this one, I chose to open the record. And it would be open the record on select, not hover. And this is where we would open the record right here. Okay, and so this is the goal, right? But I didn't show you how to connect that yet. So I'm going to, in the next little section here, you see how now we just have related and details. So now I'm going to show you how to do the integration. Okay, so you go to your setup menu, edit the page. And then we are going to wait for it to load. Okay,
Oh,
and then
Celia,
yeah,
sorry.
Lauren.
We have one question from Christian Anderson.
Okay.
Asking about if we have TableauNext licenses, should we be able to access this in our Salesforce environment today?
If you have Next and you have Salesforce, yes. Yeah.
Awesome.
So the custom label I'm creating to make it say analytics, I'm changing the order of it just by sliding it around. And here's where you add the component. So lots that you could add right there, right? And then I've chose a TableauNext dashboard. And you may quickly see that it's not necessarily the one that was opportunity one, but if you when I click into this search feature over to the right, it shows me all the ones that are open and available in this environment. And then I'm going to change the height right there to give it more space because I know that my dashboard is a little more tall. And there are additional configurations to make sure that I've got the right filtering happening between them that are going to come up next. But you can see that already this is going to be, and you know, to land with your account open and your visualization up top would be a win. So here's why I'm making sure that the semantic model from the TableauNext side is connecting correctly to the Salesforce key part. So making sure it's talking to account name and actually matching the record value, not in these match exactly right. That's what we're doing right here. Make sure it equals it. All right, and you see the dots resolved to just the ones that are relevant to global productions, right? And then save, the 2 steps left, save and activate. Now the activate's going to be different on my video than what it was the first time I went through, but I was just trying to reproduce it as much as possible. There's 3 ways to activate stuff: org-wide, app default, and then this, a lot of this has to do with what sort of form factor your viz or vizzes have been set up for. So it's asking me to remove as an org default because that's what I had it set prior to this moment. So, but in any case, it would give you a little bit different confirmation message since it's your first time through. And if you change things, it's going to ask you about forms and formats of different apps and what they're going to go toward. And then let's see, I'm going to close out of here and show you how that with the accounts, I can switch between and see the relevant data shown for that particular, all these particular accounts that are here. So, and that would be like one of the first ways if I was this would be one of the first ways to really get it going. And Abina, I think that let's save that question for Blake in a minute because he's but I think that if you mean like creator license and site admin, most likely yes, but I definitely can find out for you. Okay.
Yeah, I just sent him a message, so we were both.
Okay. Okay, very good.
As I was trying to save that one.
Yeah, that's gonna need to, we need to relook at that a little bit more. Very much with the beta been focused more on the how-to part, a little bit less on the exactly what licenses do I need, because the beta they give you what you need, right? But we did also need to have Einstein enabled. There's some enabling that has to happen for yeah. So Frank, great question. So very intentionally they're setting it to be interoperability. If you do watch any presentations of any execs at Salesforce, at Dreamforce, at what will come up this winter at what's happening at DataFam in London in the beginning of December, interoperability is a big focus and commitment from their side. So the exact methods are going to need to be fleshed out as we do some more implementations. Okay, so so that is the part that I wanted to show you for sure on the Salesforce side. And I do have it all loaded up in the background. Happy when we get to Q&A to like hop around and show you some more over there if you'd like. But I'd like to spend a minute and talk to you for a minute about concierge. It seems like from a Tableau side of the house, that's a real popular topic to talk about, and certainly has been demoed a lot starting at TC25 at least, if not before, with lots of potential there. My own observation about my own self, my testing methods and questions that I come across, I've noticed that its ability to answer the complexity in my questions is improving, and there's a definite progression there. And then also there being a need for me to step up with increased completeness for descriptions and business rules. And I'll tell you a little bit more what I mean by that. So just to set the stage for it though, the method have used Superstore for lots of demo things, right? When I need to restate something that in a public way without revealing any private data, lots of us will recast things with Superstore. So I used Superstore for this. And then I also was trying to progressively build complexity into the questions I was asking. So first of all, I would ask about top customers with successful sales, and then I wanted to have return sales. For those of you, if you just do an add reaction on your icon on Zoom chat, if you've ever used Superstore, I'd just like to know if there's a little bit of us, a whole lot of us. You can run the Zoom window across the bottom. You should be able to add a reaction. Okay, so some. All right, so one of the things about Superstore is that we have 3 tables that are the core information. It's the e-commerce, online, office supply. Okay, we have the orders table that is essentially our sales table. It records all the transactions. Then the way they decided to structure this not trying to defend it at all, just saying how it is. Okay. They have a regions table that tells you who the regional manager is and the region name. And they also have had historically over time a returns table, which in some educational circumstances I have changed. So that return table just has a order number and the word yes. So if you do like a left join with it, you end up with, you know, the ones that were sent back. And one of the you know, artificial structures about it is there's the construct of if the order number appears over here in the returns table, then all of them went back. So regardless of all the logical flaws there, that is the structure of what that table is on. But that represented an opportunity for me here because that's really pretty odd, except for that, you know, lots of data is separated into smaller tables. You know, Salesforce has lots of small tables. And so testing that relationship and being able to fish out the net sales was where I was going with this. So I first started talking to the agent and, you know, building a complementary set of things that should support the conversation about successful sales and then return sales and what was the value and the amount, and then moved into net sales, right? So gross minus the return, right? And that wasn't possible in the midsummer, to be fair. And then it started being more possible mid-August. And then the next question is some things that represent those compound questions, right? So I wanted to see top customer within each region, what their successful sales or what their most, you know, who are our frequent flyers on returning stuff for a lot of money. That's the kind of business question I'd be wanting to ask. But let me pause on that. This is my line of thinking, what I've tested quite a bit against, believe it or not. And but let me talk to you a little bit about what I've learned from them recently about the upcoming features and this beta that I'm going to be participating in starting in 5 days. So they're looking to do an expansion of the semantic features. They're, you know, busy doing lots. So, and they wanted us to think of the agent as something like a new hire, right? You have somebody come into your company as on an internship or whatever. They're not going to, even if they have some fundamental domain expertise, they're not going to know the way that we do business, right? And the business lingo, the business rules, this is the way they've been trying to communicate what needs to happen on bringing the documentation up to help support the agentic conversation. So this was a slide that was also on a presentation that I saw recently about grounding agents being a new responsibility. Well, for better for worse, what they're pointing to is a lot about documentation that really is just classic data governance. So for those of us who've done data governance or who have had somebody in our ecosystem that is documenting the business rules, the way we do business, the words, what is the acronym and what is the words behind that? What's the calculation behind that? Anybody who's spent the time and effort to like have that documented inside or outside of your data environment, this will be no big deal for. But the reality of it is, for the LLM or the agent to read the data tables without any kind of descriptions or accurate labeling, it's really difficult and, you know, not reasonable. So onto that, this part that I have highlighted in yellow dashes is the instructions that they're really hoping that will they're all going to bring new tools to support, and they want to highlight to our attention that this needs to happen. So, and they've done a good job of a starting point of giving us spots to do it as well. But the instructions for business context, giving the data model, labels, the short descriptions when it's helpful, and then some data, you know, calculated fields or metrics that go alongside of that. But that's going to empower the rest of it. So, you know, for it to be able to execute, this is part of the foundation. This is what the screen looks like for data for the business preferences. And this is something that's coming soon, and it's in beta this fall. And that is applying some sort of guardrails during creation. I'll show you what it looks like right now. But beta business preferences is a way to feed in those sort of like nuanced vocabulary kind of things. In fact, They would like for us to think about it from 3 points of view. Something that is about interpretation, those acronyms, you know, the way that a person who's not a data person might ask the agent to present information about something. But there, you know, every business has its nuances and how it uses its language. And then you also can specify things about output and some of the defaults that would be in play there, as well as being able to add in some comments about formatting that you want to have. Because you know, this part about when we put KPIs together, we need to like not have it have, you know, so many digits that it doesn't fit on the space, and then, you know, things like that. If you're fortunate enough to be in that kind of space with a big business. So along with this business rules are some maximums about how many rules you can have and how many characters you can take. So that's another reason I think that they are also improving some of the tool suite to support the effort from our side. This is something that was in the midst of working with one of the engineers that was involved in the business preferences coding. This became apparent, and I shared this at our internal lunch and learn not too long ago, but there is a tendency to take things that really belong in calculated fields and put them into business rules. And that really kind of defeats, that's not the purpose. That's not where the agent can see it best. If you have something that is a calculation and can be, needs to be in a calculated field or a metric with and both of those devices, when you create them, do have spaces for documentation to happen. So I will gladly share this deck with you guys so that you have these as well. So some of the optimization and new features that are coming down the pike in a short order are going to be regarding this things that are model readiness. So right now we have 2 spots on the semantic model page, where one is for business rules, one's for model readiness. And right now it's more of a checklist, and they're going to turn it into more of an interactive conversation with the users when that's coming. Right now, we also do have, though, the ability to test the model. And so this is a screenshot from literally something I pulled up and did last night, so that I can, you know, you can, if you have especially calculated values and you know roughly what it should be, and you have the ability to validate that going into it, that can be an important part to do. And so like this was the return status was a logical Boolean kind of field I put together, and then I wanted it to match up against sales and then give me this output to test it. And so this is one of the things that is now, and then will be only, it's just going to get better as we go. Descriptions of general semantic fields is a big part of just about every place within the ecosystem. There's a place for a description. And the more you fill in, the more the agent does well. It just does. Okay. Especially if your data labels aren't informative on their own, but they're going to do I noticed over in the Salesforce Data Cloud side, there are several things about data governance and about sufficiency and completeness of things being fully filled out. So this is now coming to our side as well, being able to identify what's missing, content and descriptions, and have some support along those lines. They're going to attempt to do some description generation and see how that goes. But, you know, if your things are named well, or if they're coming out of Salesforce where the naming is more structured, there's a good chance that could be supportive there. And then even if it just did a baseline and you had to adjust it, that would be a lot less work than starting from scratch, I imagine. And see how any place where they have Einstein helping with the interpretation of things, is you'll see this is one of their signature things right now on helping you with formulas and fill-ins. The Concierge Testing Center will also be new after probably Q1, but it's in beta this fall in half 2. And that's where we're going to have more of a place where we test things and validate and give it feedback. And so, and come up with accuracy scores. This is one of their slides for this. And again, back to that conversation with the agent, as opposed to it being, you know, this is a much more complete kind of conversation to preview the answers and validate them, you know, before it gets released to your users who would be making decisions on the basis of them. Okay, so I'll give you a little preview of some of the results that I got from my testing that I did. So I did get through these. Anything that was overarching for my whole data set, I had good results with. And so gross sales, return sales, even net sales, I was pleasantly surprised. But I did go ahead and make a couple of calculated fields to ease the path on that. It wasn't like it was having to make that up. I also was very careful with my prompt engineering to be very clear about the relationship between the returns table and the orders table, and how the presence or the absence of an order number in the returns table, that meaning of that I expressed in my prompts that I was saying. When I got around to trying to ask for the top one per region, or the most offensive returner or the highest flyer on my sales, I had a little bit more difficulty getting it to do that. And to be fair, on the SQL point of view, that would be a window function, most likely, something like that. So the little green list on the right was the things I was moving through to try to give it more support on getting that done. And it had mixed results. Okay, so I got an answer at one point that I thought, oh gosh, that's in how I asked the question, because this one, so if I asked for a certain region, I could get it, right? That was easy and clear. And this is my TableauNext dashboard that I was using. I was asking it questions on the agent panel over here, and I was, validating my responses over here on the side. And then the next one was the one that I was thinking was kind of humorous, because I was asking, and you can see it in the question, can you show me the number one customer for the most net sales for each of the 4 regions? Well, there's some nuance in how the words are put together there, right? And I meant group by each region. And what it did was it identified that Sean Miller was the top across everything. And here's the contributions that he made to each of the regions. So while this answer is not wrong, it's not what I intended, but there's a nuance in how we were using the words that was made this not quite it. If I named a region, I got the answer, and it was interesting how that when I said the top contributor, that it instantly went to the top number of orders, not the top money related orders, but the top quantity. So it did tell me that Kim Black had returned, was my top returner, but it also then, and it gave me a cute bar chart. So, but, not about the money, but about the volume. So that was on me, because I needed to clarify that, right? What it did when it couldn't calculate it was twofold in the current instance that I'm working with. One is it would offer me requirements. So if it told me it couldn't calculate it, then I would say, what else would you need to get this done? Then it would give me a list of things to do. Okay, well, I thought that was pretty good. It's a good place to start. That's come a long ways from what used to happen. So that can help you think through how you're asking the question. It can also help you create a calculated field or a metric that would support the process. And then also I would occasionally we get an error message that would say, failed to execute the semantic query. And then I was like, I got to understand what this is. So I asked it specifically what it was. I also researched it a little bit online as well. And these were the answers that seem like fair game on the kind of answers that it could give me back. Some data limitations, the complexity of the query, and that back to use of language, right? You got to get the prompt engineering hat needs to be executed well in terms of use of nuances of how we use the languages that we're using. And then ambiguous questions is not going to work. I think everybody who's using a generative AI, any tool in your world, will understand that that's going to be a problem. So I did ask ChatGPT, because in my house we have big ChatGPTers, and this was its recommendations on being specific and explicit. But to be fair, I think that the answer straight out of the analyst agent was sufficient to prompt my thinking on a lot of it. So and we hope to have an update for you guys in Q1 of 2026 as we do more with the agent. And the vistas are beautiful, and you can tell that. So here's the workspace for this data set that I put in. You can see how it's divided out. And let's go back in. All right, so there comes my workspace again, and nuances and new icons, right? That go with these things. Here's my data model for Superstore, and we already took a look at that. The pop-ups for this is great. The having the calculated fields on the side here is awesome. And then I had built two dashboards, one with and one without regions, because once I was trying to make it tell me about the per region, I ended up adding a bunch of stuff onto my worksheet to just like, maybe I need to just assist you, right? So I ended up adding like, my list over here on the right hand side. I went ahead and put explicitly in here group the segmentation of region. Then I also realized that another complexity of this data set is that customers buy in different regions, so it's not a clean break there either. But then I also had my calculated field for this. I went ahead and counted up how many returns, and was trying to ease it along the way. And this is what our visualization looked like without the other stuff going on. So you can do easy to do the total number as a dimension, and then also have my bar chart with doing earlier in the year, then May, June, when I used a Boolean setup for orders returned on the color, it did not see that at all. Whereas now it actually wants to have, they will have conversations with you about that feature and instantly be correct. So this is the analytics agent right here. And Einstein does have to be enabled for this to work. And the questions could come down here. You'll notice that when I'm traveling through the different devices, this agent does not come up if I'm in like an individual worksheet, right? It needs to be a member of a dashboard, or I need to be on top of the model. And then I can have conversations over here as well. This is where the business rules are, right? And you can see I have a few in there right now. And then this is where the checklist for agent readiness is. And there's some here, but this is one of the things they're really adding more features to. So it will be more feature rich going down in short order. So, all right. And I think that I saw Blake come in the room. I want to be sure and give some time for you guys to ask some questions. And so Blake has just been involved in a project in-house for a customer with production versions of all this. So that's why I wanted to give a chance for him to answer and be asked some questions as well. So any questions? So let me put it back to you guys. Are you guys likely to try next? Who's interested in trying next? And I'm not, this is a technical person to a technical, asking a tech question here. Who's curious about it? Okay. Frank's asking about the basic credits for agent. So there's a couple things I would point out about that. Oh, you're getting it next week. Very good. Okay. Couple things about that. I have heard that there's some changing of strategies on exactly how the consumption credits are going to work. There's a digital wallet that's just been released that I strongly recommend that you implement. That should give you, it's supposed to give you real-time calculations on what the consumption credits are that are being used. And yes, I think that there is there's been what I have heard is that, and read, is that there is a bucket that is allowed or given or credited up front, and then also there has been a change in some of the way that they are going to calculate it. Some of the things that I was concerned about, the thing that I was the most concerned about was how metrics were going to be calculated, if it had any level of complexity behind it, and where it could be, the math would be a lot. And so my understanding is anything involved in Einstein, they have restructured how the charging is going to go. And that's as far as I know. So that would be a better question for another person, but that has been reconsidered. Yeah. Anybody else other than Frank getting in anytime soon or curious about it? Okay. I have just a couple more minutes left. I want to just ask you, If you were wanting to see, what else would you like to see or know about Next or its integration with cloud or Salesforce? And feel free to type it in the channel. Just would be like to take some notes for whatever else you guys might like to see. Yeah, Scott, I hear you. Yeah, I did hear and see that there's a specific purchase order number where Next was bundled. So if you have cloud and such, you might check. Okay. The connecting of Tableau. Really good points. Okay, so let me just show something here that on my, okay, let me log back into the other part. So Zach is making a point about zero copy in use and how important that is. Let me go back to my, yeah. I want to show you on my Sales Cloud and this part of this demo part. Let me go to there we go. Okay, so my Sales Cloud workspace, you'll see that that's not quite what I was looking for. Let's see if I can go there still. Okay, well, let me just make the point that he's mentioning about zero copy. So zero copy is really important. So what they're trying to promote more and more is that we leave things in place in one spot and we reference them. So zero copy is pretty well documented also on the Tableau Salesforce website. I would encourage you to dive into that a little bit. It keeps you from having extra charges and it makes it so that you can reference the data. I can't speak to performance issues because I haven't had a chance to do that in a way that's meaningful. But I just know that when I had the when I built the things for the demo about integration with Salesforce, I did not have all the data set and have a copy of it. I was able to reference it, and you can see there's a little arrow on my semantic model referencing the core of that, and any other tables I needed to add to it, sort of like schema builder, kind of a little bit of overlap of how that works. But yep. So that's zero copy is important. It's important. It's also valuable. And then we have, I'm sure all of us will have performance questions about that. Yeah, zero copy. So maybe we'll be looking at that as another topic for discussion. Any other questions? Anything what you guys want to ask Blake while I've got him here, fresh out of the field from doing the work with
I've got a quick question. Just
thanks, Christian.
I know we have TableauNext, and I'm looking for it in my org right now, but looks like there's
Okay.
some permission sets that probably need to be assigned.
Mhm.
Is that all that's needed? I don't have Tableau as an option in my apps menu, but I'm wondering as far as setup so that I can get to the Tableau screens that you were just showing.
Mhm.
Other
Yeah, it does
than
have to be enabled. There's like 2 or 3 things that have to be enabled, and I have heard that there's some steps involved there that are not necessarily super well documented. Blake, can you speak to that a little bit? I know that we had another team
Sure.
member who also did that.
Yeah, as far as the data cloud and specific permission sets on the Salesforce side, that was handled by another team member. But I agree, Christian, if you're not in the TableauNext specific permission set, you won't see it in your app launcher on
okay.
Salesforce. But again, that doesn't mean you don't have it. It just means you're not in the correct permission set.
Yes, it looks like I can assign myself those permission sets. I'm an administrator in the org here, but
Okay.
just wasn't sure if there was other setup steps, and sometimes there's other things needed, obviously the license, but
Right.
Maybe it's as simple as just assigning the permissions. So that's, but I can do some reading too and try to find the
As
setup
yeah,
docs.
I wish I could answer definitively. I know there are more setup steps, but I wasn't the one to have to do them.
No problem.
And Christian, maybe we can try to follow up with you with any resources we can send your way on helps or guidelines on that. I'll make a note.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? Was this helpful at all? Were you guys gonna give me a thumbs up if this was in the zip code of being interesting and okay. Oh, good. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So, it's a work in progress, and these guys are really pushing so hard to make it very feature rich. And if you get frustrated with it, just remember where Tableau Cloud was in 2018. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And Blake, thanks for being here. Lauren, thank you for cutting out to be here as well. I appreciate y'all. And we'll be back with more in Q1 about it, no doubt. And I'm excited with what they're going to do with the semantic model. I feel like it's a game changer, and the portability of it's going to be incredible. So, all right. Thank you for being here, team. Thank you so much.